Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me and maybe just say hi in the chat so we can just get started. Awesome. Great. Now I know you can hear me and everyone can see my introduction slide okay. Okay, great. All right, so I'm really excited about this session. I love working with paper. As a teacher in the classroom for 13 years, paper was just one of the ways that I try to engage my students. And if you're a teacher, then you know that you spend your own money in your classroom trying to give your students the best experience possible. And that's why a lot of us became teachers, because we really feel the value of that role in our society. And I use paper in a lot of ways, artistic ways mostly. And there's traditional ways that we use paper for writing stories, journaling. And I started using paper in origami. And that's what is connected to what this session is about how we can make paper toys that young children can engage with. It's inexpensive, it's very flexible, literally flexible also, and it can be a powerful tool for students. So just to get started, go to my next slide. I'm from the Ames Center in Fresno, California, and we're a nonprofit that works with partnerships mostly within the state and within our county, whether that's like school districts, schools, other nonprofits, after-school programs, um, just in our community, bringing STEM or STEAM to places like the library and informal spaces and formal spaces. And these are some of the values that we try to promote, not only in the work that we do, but here in the center where we work with each other. And today I'm especially going to think about two of these values. It's empowerment, because we're going to talk a little bit about the research that's behind some of the things that we're going to engage with today. And I'm also going to focus on innovation, because I think we're going to use paper in different ways, new ways when you do something new, and maybe something that's a little bit out of the box. I think that that can be innovative ways to be creative and bring that to the children that you work with, that we work in our communities. So I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit more about yourself in the chat, but I just want to tell you a little bit about me. I spent, like I said, 13 years in the classroom as a math teacher in every avenue, public school, private school, charter schools, online school. I had a nice broad experience with different ways that we deliver education. And for 9 years, I've been working with early childhood teachers. I came to the center in 2016 and got to work as a research associate at Head Start sites, and got to interview kids, do interviews with kids, interviews with teachers, try to design experience and activities for children. And I learned so much. And while the 13 years in the classroom was middle school and high school math, I think it just fell in love with the early childhood space in all the ways that it's so beautiful that children begin their educational journey, and the beautiful ways that early childhood educators engage with children on every level, on the whole child level. And I've been working in that realm ever since. And so currently I'm a PhD candidate at Texas Tech University. And I'm studying especially spatial intelligence, and specifically I started out very curious about math anxiety. Math anxiety was something that I encountered in my own education, in being a teacher, in working with other teachers, and teaching at college level. And it was something that I really felt deeply for changing the ways that people had a narrative around math, and realizing that a lot of that is tied to your own experience and maybe a negative experience that people had. And so as research continues in that realm, we'll learn more about the effects of math anxiety, but we're still unclear about the causes. And math is a very broad field. I mean, there's so many spaces of mathematics. I mean, there's arithmetic, there's computations, there's number sense, there's algebra, geometry, trigonometry, all sorts of mathematics. And people can engage in math anxiety in different parts of their educational journey. And one thing that's being delved into a little bit deeper is the importance of spatial intelligence and the reality that there's an anxiety around spatial experiences, just like in math, there could be anxiety around an avoidance or an anxiety when people engage in math or certain types of math. Spatial anxiety has been linked to mathematics in so many ways, problem solving, geometry, but also the ways that maybe people also have anxiety. So, I wanted to share just a little bit of who I am and make this a little bit more connected with you. But I see a lot of people sharing in the chat from Chicago, from other places in California. Go ahead, tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe just a couple bullet points. Are you a teacher? How long have you been teaching? Where are you from? Any other curious things to know about you? I'll just give a few minutes for me to read some of these and for us to just see where each other is from. So good morning, Donna, Sacramento, Sari from El Centro, California. A lot of people from California here. Welcome. San Diego, Richmond. Oh, 23 years preschool teacher. Amazing. Thank you for your service. Cypress, California, Santa Barbara, California, San Francisco. Oh, we have someone from Houston, Texas, preschool director. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, this is wonderful. So many people in so many realms, so many types of levels of experience. 7 years, 23 years, 25 years, working with younger children or primary elementary kids, site directors. This is wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing about yourself and for coming into this session. I hope there's something that you can take back with you that will inspire you and help you continue in the meaningful work that you're doing. Part of what I also wanted to share today is how we as educators contribute to the work that we do. And that is really important as we sort of engage in um, some of the research that I wanted to share today. So spatial, what is spatial? So spatial thinking or spatial reasoning, also called spatial intelligence, spatial awareness, lots of synonyms out there in the research realm, but it involves the location and movement of objects and ourselves or us moving those objects in our space. It could be mentally, it could be physically in space. It's not a single process or ability, but it actually refers to a considerable number of concepts, tools, and processes. So there's all this work being done around how important spatial intelligence is, and that it may be a talent that we're not identifying at the young age, that's sort of letting some children slip through the cracks because we look at their number sense and we look at their verbal skills, but spatial intelligence is actually the one skill that STEM professionals have in common is their spatial intelligence is high and their spatial awareness is very strong. So part of what I wanted to bring to you today is also an opportunity to participate in research. If you just take a snapshot of this, maybe with your phone, and later go back to it, this is to a survey that I'm currently doing around spatial anxiety for early childhood staff or teachers, if you work in any of that realm, from pre-K all the way to third grade. This takes about 15-20 minutes to just gauge your anxiety in different situations, and it'll involve three components, and we'll talk about those three components a little bit later. But I'm hoping that as we all, invest in time and efforts, and more than any paycheck could ever give us, is the ways that we believe in the work that we do and the power that it has for the future. And one of the reasons that I've continued being a lifelong learner is to contribute to this space of early childhood education in spaces in parts where we still have gaps. And we want to know more about not only the effects of spatial anxiety, which is connected to math anxiety, but we want to know how to prevent it. We want to give our children positive, good narratives around mathematics and make sure that that continues and that math is not a barrier to their future, to their dreams. So if you just look at this, and I'll look at the link a little bit later, but maybe I can share the link in the chat, and then I'll be able to, glean from you a little bit more information around what that is and what that's like. So, just to continue, and I'll make sure I go ahead and share that with you. We're going to do a little demonstration around a a thing I call the transforming envelope. And this is just to get us started in some of the aspects. So I'm just going to give you like 1, 2 minutes. If you have an envelope, even if it's already been used or if it's on your table somewhere that you have to open it, if you carefully just open it from the top, so it's mostly still intact, we're going to make something really cool with an envelope. You'll need a straight edge, a pen, and scissors. And I'll give you just like a couple minutes. If you don't want to grab that, you could just watch me demo this. But one of the things I want to talk about today is the power of 2 dimension and 3 dimensions in spatial activities or engagement. So I'm going to give you just a couple minutes if you wanted to grab that. And then you can follow along with me and see if we can make our first little paper toy together. And I will put in the chat the link to the survey. And I'm sorry about my code did not work, but hopefully that will take you to the right place. Thank you for your patience. So any envelope will do. It could be a card envelope. It could even be a vanilla envelope. Anything that will work. I have just like a business envelope here. And what we're going to do is you see, so it could be any envelope, and you want to have it the top side up before we draw our lines. We're going to draw a couple of lines on the envelope, and that's the only reason we need a straight edge. So if you just want to eye it, you can eye it, but if you want to use a straight edge and be more precise. So we're going to just draw an X from the top corner to the bottom corner, then the top left and to the bottom right. And yeah, this is all we want to do first. So we just want to draw these lines, making sure that the envelope is facing up, like the open side is facing up. And if you've cut along the edge and you don't have the flap, that's completely fine. You still draw your lines across the 2 corners. And so after we do that, what we do is we get our scissors and we're going to just cut the top section out. So we have 4 sections in our envelope, and all we do is cut the top section out. Yeah, we have 4 triangles, that's correct. So just by cutting that first top section out, we still have a pocket, but we probably don't have a flap anymore. The flap will probably mostly go away. And we just cut that first part out. Now, depending on the age of the children, this is an activity that maybe, 2nd, 3rd graders can do. But for little kids, we might be the ones that make this for them, and then they can engage with it. So what you have here is sort of looks like a boat. We're not going to make a boat, but sort of looks like that. And you just see your remaining 2 lines here, and there you have 3 triangles instead of the 4 that you had at the beginning. So then we do some folding. What we need to do is we need to fold along this line and this line. So if you've drawn your line with a pen or pencil, you've probably creased it a little bit, so it's a little easier. So we want to crease here and here, and then we also want to crease right in the middle just by folding it in half. We want to crease, that's just right there. Now, what's important about this is that we want to make sure that we have the creases flexible. So you want to fold them towards the line and then away from the line. So that's important to do as well. And what you should have when you're all done is a nice flexible, I have mine right here, a nice flexible crease here that will go back and forth on that line and then back and forth on this line. And then of course the crease here that you don't have drawn in is the one that's just folds it in half both ways. All right. So I'll just give a couple minutes in case there's someone who's catching up and doing their creases. I kind of pre-did mine. Save a little time. All right, so just to review, we had an envelope and we drew from the two corners. We drew in the diagonals. Those are the diagonals of this rectangle. And then by doing that, we have 4 sections, which are each triangles, and we cut out the top section. Then after that, we just fold along the lines of the diagonals that are left, which are the outlines of our triangles. And then we fold it in half back and forth. All right, so this is the fun part. This is the fun part where something that's 2-dimensional, flat, will turn into something that's 3-dimensional. So we open up the envelope and you notice first that the creases that you have sort of create some faces. They're still triangular. And what you do with that opening is that you insert one of those into the other. And then you have this shape. Oh, and then the question is, what type of shape is this? Now this is not the flat shapes that we started with, these 3 triangles. Now we have this shape that has a 3rd dimension, right? And it does have these nice smooth things that are called faces. And we see we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 of these. We have 4 of these triangles now, 4 faces. And in geometry, we say tetrahedron. Hedron meaning like this is a 3-dimensional object, and tetra meaning there's 4 faces here. And all our 4 faces are triangles. What's interesting about this is that it's a nice flexible model that allows you to still undo this puzzle or this object and take it back to the 2-dimension and then take it back to the 3-dimension. Now, it allows a child to hold a 3-dimensional object that went from 2D to 3D, allows them to touch the faces, talk about vertices and actually touch the points, and then talk about the edges, which are the lines between the faces, and what those look like in the beginning and at the end. And what's important about this is not only all the vocabulary that we can understand by just even doing this object, even if you were demoing it with kids and then pass this object around for all the children to hold, but just seeing that spatial transformation happening in a really simple way. Now, this is not a pyramid. This is not a regular shape. So it's not a regular shape we're going to see on a poster somewhere, but that is one of the reasons that it is so powerful. Because a lot of times shapes in the real world aren't those perfect shapes that we see on our posters, and we name the triangle And it's an equilateral triangle maybe in our poster, but there's lots of different triangles in the real life. And this sort of could be a pyramid, but it's not because it feels like it's sort of bent on this side. And a pyramid that I've seen before is like right in the middle. So the skewed or called oblique pyramid has this top point that's a little bit over and not in the center where we're used to seeing some objects be. And that's one of the ways that children can engage with these kinds of things in simple ways that allow them to just discover when things aren't like the posters that you see or like the flashcards, something that's different, and you can name it and you can see it, you can touch it and feel it. So there's a question on my slide. It says, what are you noticing? Well, maybe what did you notice is a better question. And what did you notice about the vocabulary? Was there some vocabulary that was new? Was this a different experience to see some of this application of vocabulary? Write in the chat, like, is there something you want to share about something that you noticed? Tetrahedron. Tetrahedron, maybe not the word we thought of. Maybe pyramid is a little bit more common. Different envelopes create different shapes. Yes. So if you have a different envelope, maybe you have a greeting card envelope today, then that would make a different shape. And I believe the only envelope that does not work is a square envelope. So if you had a square envelope that does not work because it doesn't give enough space for you to insert one into the other. But as long as it's triangular in some sense, it should work and be a different sort of tetrahedron, but still a tetrahedron. Wondering what responses you would get from your students. Yeah, introducing new vocabulary, maybe giving them words to describe things that they would describe in different ways right now. Awesome. Yeah. And this is, I mean, this is a great thing to just maybe make a center of different envelopes or to guess what it might look like when it's a different envelope. I love making it out of the big manila envelopes because then it's nice and big when you fold it inside. And that might be a nice big surprise for little children to engage with. So yeah, so thank you for sharing about what you noticed. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the what research is saying about spatial intelligence. So there's three components, and not everyone agrees on all the components that are there, but there's these three that most researchers or almost all researchers are agreeing with. So one component of our spatial intelligence is our ability to imagine something in our mind. So if I tell you, imagine a square, imagine a pyramid, imagine maybe something that's more familiar to your home, like imagine your kitchen. So you can imagine that, you can kind of visualize that in your head. That's part of your spatial intelligence. A second part that's related to that is your ability to manipulate something that you're imagining. So if I say, imagine a cube and then rotate it around, imagine a pyramid and then turn it upside down. So our ability to not just imagine, but then to manipulate something in our head and imagine what it looks like after that manipulation has happened is another part of our spatial intelligence. And a third part of spatial intelligence is navigation. So our ability to not only navigate our bodies or our cars or our bikes through the spaces and environments that we live in or go into, but then our ability to tell someone directions to how to get somewhere, or where something is in our room, or how to find something that they're looking for. it's not only our ability then to give directions, but then to take in someone else's directions and then be able to apply them. So making a map for someone or reading a map, we don't get to do that as much as we used to with technology, but navigation is still part of our spatial intelligence, and we still have to use that in some part of our world. And so navigation is another component. So, as I mentioned, it is the one common skill in STEM professions, and it's definitely connected to math learning and achievement. In fact, math achievement is actually the best indicator of early math achievement is the best indicator for later academic achievement overall. And we know that spatial intelligence, spatial skills are connected to science and problem solving there's a lot of great scientists like Einstein and others who talked about how they visualize problems or visualize solutions. Those actually them engaging with their spatial intelligence. And there's also lots of artists, architects who are able to visualize and then create things out of their visualization, their manipulation in their minds. So there's so much connected to spatial intelligence and how important it is. We still don't see the value as it should be. As we make this progress in research, we know that it takes time to get to practice. And so there is still an emphasis on verbal and number sense in the lower grades, but there is hopefully a changing dynamic that's saying we can't forget about spatial. We need to be intentional about the experiences and activities and opportunities that kids get to engage with in the spatial realm. Because kids who are talented in this, and talent is part, nurture and nature. And so if kids show a propensity because of the experiences that they've had in an early age, then we should be able to nurture those. And then we should also think about those kids who don't have that propensity and be able to encourage them to get more opportunities and grow their brain in that space because we know our brains are malleable. And it's so important for those early opportunities that they get. Another thing that's really important to remember is my emphasis in the 2D and 3D today in the things that I'll share with you is because of this part of research. If kids only get 2D, which is coloring, drawing, puzzles, flat puzzles, then that's great, but it doesn't transfer to their 3D abilities. It doesn't transfer to their 3D growth or progress. So we need to make sure that kids are getting a balance of the 2D spatial experiences and the 3D spatial experiences. Now, we don't know if 3D transfers into 2D. I don't think there's been research around that yet, but we do know for some research that's been done that children who only were getting 2D experiences, they struggled with the 3D. And so we want to make sure that kids are getting both, that they're playing with the blocks, that they're doing some sort of 3D experiences that's so important for them to get a nice balance. Another thing that's part of the math anxiety world is the difference in genders. So children or women tend to self-report more anxiety than males do. We know that's not based on ability. We've kind of realized that in research, but we know that it's still true. And then when we figure in the factors of that there's more women and there's actually more women of color in spaces that are early education, then we want to make sure that there's support and there's an acknowledgement of this. But as we connect that to spatial thinking, um, we know that those differences make no barrier to the success that they can have as girls and as women. And as long as we take steps to ensure that they're getting the skills they need, there's nothing about gender that has anything to do with their ability. It's all about opportunity, and that can be a way that is a preventative measure of making sure that we have STEM fields that are gender, balanced and that are well diverse and represented and inclusive. And we don't have that yet. I think it was only 8 or 9% was the last marking about how many women of color there are in STEM professions. So we want to make sure that the diversity can grow, and it starts when they're younger, and it starts with those opportunities when they're younger. So let's get into some of the models that I have today to share with you. I have videos to share with you. We won't be able to make everything, but I'm excited that you'll start thinking about the ways that you can bring paper experiences to children. So the first one I have is a hyperbolic curve, and it's a flexible movement through 3D space, and starts out with just a square. You can do rectangle, I think, but the square is the most easiest. So you take a square piece of paper and you just make a grid of folds of small squares. And so this started out with just as a paper that had folds in it, and you can now see some lines that are sort of concentric squares inside. So what you do is, like, after you make this grid of squares, then you start from the outside working in, where you fold one ridge up and then one ridge down, and one ridge up and one ridge down. And as you get towards the center, it it just naturally wants to fold into this sort of curve. And I'll take mine back to its original so I can show you. And this is a lot of fun to fold in. So when you fold it down, you're going to have this sort of the star shape. And then when you open it up, it sort of wants to twist. And it becomes sort of this curved shape. And it's very flexible. It sort of pops back. If you just turn it, it'll pop back to the regular space it is. Now, this folded in a nice, like if you get an 8.5 by 11 sheet and just get that square out and fold something like this, you can really see that it's something that you could just make a little center of and have kids explore. Like, what shapes do you see? How does the paper feel? How did it change from what it looked like to what it looked like now? And maybe have a piece of square paper that one of these are made out of. But just a child being able to move something through 3D space is such a big opportunity for them to start connecting their brain around how things move through space and the shapes that are seen on a flat sheet of paper, and how almost the memory of the paper changes when you put these folds in it and you lay it down, it still holds that memory. So putting creases in paper is a powerful way to kind of see those kinds of things happen. There's a lot of upper mathematics happening here. Hyperbola is happening here. A parabola is happening here. But for young children just to engage in this as just a toy that they can just play with, almost something that could even help calm them as they play with it, can be just a sense of helping them to connect those senses into their touch and their eyes and what they're seeing happen in something like this hyperbolic curve. So I have another one called the Flexistar that's kind of the same, but I wanted to show you some pictures. So that's another picture, a little bit bigger, of the hyperbolic curve just done in paper. And you can see more of the edges in this picture, a little bit more defined than my yellow piece of paper here. And then the one next to it has has two Flexistars together. And I do have a video from the Flexistar, and I'll share my links at the end. But a Flexistar is 8 squares of piece of paper, and they're interlocked together, so there's no tape or glue. But you can use it if you think that it might hold together a little bit better. But what's really cool about this is that when we think about rotations, we think of dials and things that rotate. A lot of it, except maybe a handle, a door handle, is a 3D experience. But a lot of these things happen sort of in this 2D world, especially when they're working with like puzzles. They have to rotate the puzzle to fit inside. But one thing that's great about this is that not only has this sort of elastic and flexibility, but these points that are on the outside, they rotate inwardly. So I can take my Flexistar and I can bring those points to the center, and then I can rotate them back out through the center. And this allows a 3D motion of what rotation looks like in a 3D space, where the center point is sort of your rotating piece. Now, the picture you see on the top is two of these, one that's in the middle and then one that's on the outside and kind of looks like a sun. I've seen kids just experiment with how to put these together. Some of them make Ferris wheels out of them and imagine Ferris wheels. Kids take things that are in their environment and then play with them. But I think one thing that's so beautiful is that as they engage with it, they can engage with it in different ways. Maybe they might play pretend and it would be a crown, or maybe it's the Ferris wheel, or maybe it's a sun. But as they just experiment with it and see it on all the levels that it moves, it's just a beautiful way for them to sort of engage with these devices and these paper products that can just bring that experience to life for them. Because who thought that paper could feel elastic? And those are things that they're experimenting around science and material science as well. Um, let's see. So this is a video of the Flexa star, and I'll just play a little bit for you so you can see how it starts. Um, I try to make these videos kind of short, knowing that you could pause and just re-watch something if you needed it. But I'm going to share my YouTube video. It has a lot more than just these, but these are some of the ones that I would recommend you looking at to just sort of engage in ways that you can create something that maybe is a center or a way for kids to engage with some paper things. And if they're older kids, they're going to make their own toys out of paper, and that's great because then they have so many levels of engagement and spatial intelligence going on at the same time. So it's pretty much just two folds, two creases in there. And then after those creases are made, you take those edges and you make these little flaps. And those flaps are what intersects. Um, there's no sound in the video. There's just a little song in the background. So try to make it pretty simple, very visual and not too much dependent on the audio or instructional. And that's like one model, and then those models kind of go together to make your little circle. And there's eight of those that come together. Great, great also collaborative project for kids to work on together. To my next slide here. The other two that I wanted to share today are the Columbus cube model and the pull-up polyhedra. So cubes are great for kids to work with, and cubes really model just, kids working with blocks. But the Columbus cube model is a little change to the cube, and it has to do with the corners. So I have a little model here, and I'll just bring two of these over. So what the Columbus model did is it took a cube, and this is made with 6 sheets of paper, and then it indented one of the corners. And this allows kids not only to like stack the blocks just up and down like they would with a flat, nice face, but now you can stack the blocks, and this one is made a little smaller. You can stack the blocks in their corner. And so this allows you to make a nice little tower of blocks by just kind of balancing those corners. And you can make them different sizes or the same size. I've made these out of the huge paper you get like a craft store that's already in a huge square. Just slightly cardstock, so it's not too thick, but you can make some nice ones that you could glue the seams and have a little center around there. So you can make them large or small depending on what you do. The fold is pretty simple. This is not my design, but I will share the video. The original design for the cube was from an artist in Israel, and then someone took this design and then just changed how you fold 3 of the papers, and then you can make this indent. Now, these can hold together without any adhesives, but adding adhesives will actually allow you to have some more durability, especially with younger kids. The other thing I wanted to show you, and so this is an example of a bigger model that I have. Um, it's just a beautiful way. I mean, it is artistic, but those all come together, those all take apart, and you can kind of re-put them together in different ways. And then the other one I wanted to share was a pull-up polyhedra. And the pull-up polyhedra is this sort of an idea. The idea that you have the faces in a flat net, and then you pull the string and see it close on itself. So we'll see that one more time. This is a tetrahedron. You recognize the 4 faces in this one, a different tetrahedron, but you pull it together and you make this nice little shape at the end. So in this example here on this video is one that's a cube, a tetrahedron cube. And the whole experience is about children being able to like pull that string and see that thing close and then be able to do it over and over again. So there's different nets that you can get. I have included the cube net with the files that I've shared. But you can also just make one from just a piece of paper by, folding it so you have those cubes and then cutting out what you need. But you need the single hole punch, some string. The tape is just to tape the base. You want to tape the base down so it doesn't move. I don't think I had this one taped, but it stayed pretty firm. And then a nice base. So it's always good to have like a nice base. In this case, it's yellow, the yellow piece of paper, so that it kind of anchors everything down and then you can see that sort of come together. I've seen kids, use these in classes, but also seen teachers make centers of these where kids can just engage in different ones and watch them open and close. And they get different ideas. They get ideas of making houses, putting windows in them, all sorts of ways that kids use their imagination to be creative. But another way that 2-dimension and 3-dimension is being emphasized and giving them that experience. So this is the template that's in the folder where I shared the files for my session, and you'll be able to get that and print that out. And we put the letters there so that it's easy to communicate how to put the yarn or weave the yarn in. But yeah, this is a great activity to even have with children, do with children together. And the last thing I wanted to show you is a pop-up fidget toy. This is made with 3 sheets of paper. And I know that there was a time where kids had those fidget toys that spin and everything. Well, this is a nice little one that is a flat and then sort of pops up into 3 space. So you can make it sort of flat and then you just hold those corners and sort of pop it out. And I was really curious about making like a larger one and just kind of popping that out. Very quiet. It doesn't make a lot of noise, but it does take that 2-dimensional space into this 3-dimensional space. I know that even as an adult, it just is sometimes soothing to like um maybe sit in a meeting or be in a space where you're waiting and just have something that is sensory for you. And it's a wonderful way for you to just offer these as spaces for kids that are very low cost, very durable. I've had this one forever. And the more that you pop it out, the easier it gets. But just ways for kids to see ways that they could even make things for themselves that are good for their own well-being and support their own maybe emotional ways to regulate themselves. So you can make it at various colors. I did also include the link here, and we'll see a little bit of that. I think the tricky part is putting the 3 pieces together, but it is just another one of those models. So almost all, if not all, modular origami models have no adhesive. It's sort of one of those rules. So you want to make or design the model based on the ways that it could link together without using tape or glue. And so this is one that also does the same thing. So I hope that that's one that you'll be able to engage with and try on your own. I love to see you do that. And again, that's on the videos that I'll be sharing in a little bit. But the one that I showed here that's made just out of those colors, 3 different colors make just a beautiful sort of artistic piece at the end. And I'll let you see a little bit of the fold so you won't be so intimidated to try to find it on. It starts off the same, a lot of the same thing that the other one started off, but you do take the corners to the center. Flip it over, and then you take the edges to the center. And you do that to each of those, and you make a parallelogram. You just tuck that into that little hole there, and you have parallelogram. Now, when you have those 3 parallelograms, it's just a matter of putting them together after that. Right now, what's being shown is just where you want to crease it, so that when you put it together, it comes together a little bit better, just because those creases are there. But I hope this is another one that you'll definitely engage with. All right, so I'm really grateful that you've come and just seen some of these ideas. A lot of these are just ways to like sort of capture your attention and get you started. I'm sure there's so much more that you could learn out there. I've just been able to explore and fall into just a wonderful world of just thinking about paper, not only for aesthetic beauty, but thinking about paper in ways that kids can engage with it and see a world that of opportunity for them. And paper is very, inexpensive, in ways that kids can go home and explore more with paper, or they can create things on their own, or just as we're talking here about creating centers for younger kids to explore spatial thinking, spatial awareness, their spatial intelligence. So I want to just, ask a few questions or reflections. How has this, introduction around spatial reasoning in the realm of paper and toys changed your thinking, or influence your thinking? Are there some activities that you want to try out after today's session? Please share it in the chat, and we can learn from each other. If there's any questions, I can take some questions now as well. So yeah, let's see what we can have. Can you share printable templates for the shapes? Yes, I have shared the pull-up polyhedra one. That's the cube, which is the easiest one to do. But if you like to have some different ones, I will share my email, and I invite you to just email me, and I can share the ones that we've created here at the AIM Center. I want to try the first one. Oh, you want to try the envelope? Great. Yes, please try the envelope. Oh, great. Yes. I'm so glad. So, here is the survey again, and my YouTube videos. So if you have this link, go to all my videos, but that does include the ones that I've highlighted here. I believe also there's a pull-up polyhedra example without a template. So you can use a template when without. So you can go there, and you'll find the Flexus star. Yes, you would definitely find the Flexus star. You'll find the fidget toy, the pop-up fidget toy. So please, if you want to take a snapshot or a picture of this link, screenshot it. That will take you to those resources. And I appreciate those who will not only complete the survey, but share the survey because our contributions to research, continuing research in early ed, um, are furthering the learning and the work that can be done on behalf of you and our communities that we serve. Oh, great. So you can use it at the public library for kids. Yes. These are some ideas that hopefully they can use there and the kids will love. Yes, that is the hope. So it, I think paper folding, what I found, and I've just done, like, I remember the first time I went and did just making cubes with kids in the third grade class and how their eyes just lighted up with what they made. And the fact that they were going to go home and make one again, and not because it was homework, but because they were fully inner internally engaged with it. And I think that that's one way that sort of art and mathematics can be used together to encourage kids to make it an experience that they'll enjoy. Oh, great. I'm using it for a STEM program in our library and for school age kids. Thank you, Donna, for sharing that. Oh, yes, I want to share my email. Here is my email. My name is Aileen Rizzo. I'm Associate Director here at the AIM Center, and it is aileen@aimcenter.org. Oh, let me share again the survey in the, there we go. Yes, thank you. Some other people are sharing it, but that is a survey. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. I hope these activities were really great. Gives kids imagination to go beyond that it's just a piece of paper. Yeah. It would be very sad if kids just thought that piece of paper were just to write your spelling words 3 times each. It'd be really wonderful if they just saw paper and all the amazing imagination, creativity, beauty that can come from paper. And there's so many artists out there that are just doing amazing things. Robert Lang is a physicist turned origami artist. He does amazing things with paper. Um, so yeah, there's a lot more to explore out there with paper, and I hope that this just gives you a little bit of a taste of what's out there and how children's brains can just be developed through the engagement with paper. Yes, paper rings, ninja stars, yes, all those things. Archaic but good things. Let's bring those back. But let's not throw ninja stars in the classroom. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for coming. Here's the survey again. Thank you, everyone. Oh, great. I'm glad you guys like these ideas. I hope to see maybe some great photos you can share sometime. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Fold, flipping, rotating, all of those transformations that happen at a very young age are then harnessed in geometry in high school. And so that's why it's so important to give kids those examples with puzzles, paper play. Yes. And my hope that paper folding is part of every mathematics class, no matter what age and what um, class. If you're in middle school, if you're in high school, or in college, I hope they're doing some paper folding there. Linda, this is the link here, the survey. Yes, Raisa Lee. Yes, please share my contact. I love to get in contact with anyone who's interested in some STEM PD. Yes, definitely. Oh, that's great, Jamie. I'm grateful you're doing paper folding in kindergarten. That's wonderful. Yeah, Laura's sharing a story, doing origami in 5th grade, and we're still remembering that. These are the kind of positive memories we want to create in mathematics, and these are the kinds that will shift the narrative. It's so wonderful. I was able to teach some origami in a high school 3D art class, and I was just amazed with how creative the students were being with the origami I was teaching them and how they were changing it and putting things together and making sculptures. And their teacher said, you know, this is math that we're doing. And they were like, no, don't ruin it for us. And it was funny, but it was also sad because we need creative problem solvers. And if we're learning how to problem solve in math class and thinking it's a drudgery or boring or dry, there's something wrong about what's happening because we want creative problem solvers. We want them to be creative in mathematics. We want them to share their thinking. So I love the ways that we can bring that through paper folding. Mhm. Survey for this. Oh, a survey for the session. I'm not sure if there's a survey for the session. Link versus survey training that assigned. Mm, I don't have the link to the survey for the session. I'm not sure if Olivia has that. The survey for the symposium really at the end of the event. Oh, so there's one at the end. Okay. There's one survey at the end. I had a slide with the 4 3D shapes. What is the name of the origami for the first shape called? Let's see. Hyperbolic curve? Yeah, I think that's the one you're looking for. Um, yes. I am not sure if there's a video on the hyperbolic curve, but might have to make one. I may have seen that in a book, Junwoo, so maybe we can keep in contact and see if we can find something out there. Right. Thank you once again, everyone, for coming. Let's be in contact. And thank you for all of your participation and for attending this event. I hope that you've been inspired, and I thank you for, again, for the work you're doing and for the connections we're making today. Everyone, take care.